The National Legal Advisor of the Committee for the Defense of Human Rights, CDHR, Harry Ekine, joins me on the news for more. He joins me virtually. Good to have you join us.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Good evening.
So I want to start by getting your reaction to this judgment, because we've been listening to several lawyers as well. One of them particularly said that going by this judgment, it means that there has not been governance in Rivers State.
Yes, the Supreme Court is the final court in our legal system, and then the decisions of the Supreme Court, of course, are final. But the Supreme Court is not final because it's infallible. But with the wisdom of the justice of the Supreme Court, the decision has been taken today, and that's what we're discussing. My consideration of the decisions of the Supreme Court in respect to the two matters is to the effect that, yes, they have considered, but it leaves certain fundamental questions, constitutional questions, and even actual questions to be answered, which in my view, I think have not been answered, except perhaps until I get hold of the enrolled order of the Supreme Court, which hasn't come out and I haven't actually had opportunity to hold. But considering the discussions that have gone on since this afternoon, with its effects to the local government elections that were conducted on the 5th of October 2024, and the Supreme Court today considering that the election was conducted in defiance to certain provisions of the Electoral Act. And with emphasis, my concern is the Electoral Act, Section 150. But I think as a lawyer that all the 36 states of the Federal Republic of Nigeria have for themselves the State Independent Electoral Commission established by law pursuant to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And of course, enactment of the respective states' houses of assembly to the effect that local government administration, including the conduct of election, is governed by a state law. But these are arguments that I think can only make perhaps academic contribution, and in analyzing the decision of the Supreme Court, it's not going to change that decision. But I think those are constitutional issues that have to arise. Another significant issue that probably will be considered here, can there be a vacuum in the local government system in Rivers State? Oh, no. The same Supreme Court has just recently held to the effect that caretaker committees or any other contraction other than democratically elected council pursuant to Section 7 of the Constitution have been abhorred by the decision of the Supreme Court. So in this regard, the question that will be left to answer, which the Supreme Court, I'm afraid, didn't really give a leave to answering that, is what happens. The River State government cannot allow...
We'll speak more on that, Mr. Ekine. We'll speak more on that because that's an interesting point you just raised. We're going to talk more about that when we return from the break. We'll put you on hold. Then we'll continue with the conversation after the break. Now, still ahead on TVC News at 7, Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare says routine immunization is critical to the sustenance of Nigeria's victory over polio. We'll bring you details of this and more after the break. Stay with us.
Mom, you see, you taught me well.
In today's world, we forget what truly connects us.
I need my family to come together.
Devon Kings, bringing families together, one bite at a time.
No phones at my table.
This reminds me of the good old days. Thank you for keeping to the family traditions.
Thank you, Mama.
Devon Kings, taste that binds.
GSM cable. Great quality, now with the new look.
Thanks for staying with us. A reminder of our top stories. President Bola Tinubu signs a 54.99 trillion naira 2025 appropriation bill into law. Supreme Court stops CBN, others from releasing funds to Rivers State government. Others Martin Amewule to resume sitting with all elected assembly members. And outside Nigeria, Ukraine's President Zelensky arrives at White House for talks with President Trump on Ukraine war and minerals deal. And in sports, English referee David Coote banned by UEFA until 2026 over Euro 2024 video. I was staying on developments in Rivers State where there was a judgment from the Supreme Court today. We are speaking with the National Legal Advisor of the Committee for the Defense of Human Rights, Ekine. Thank you for staying with us.
Thank you for having me.
So you, just before the break, you raised a question as to who is now occupying the office, or who will now occupy the office of the local government chairman. But before that election, there were chairmen who the the State Assembly had extended that tenure. Now that the State Assembly has sort of been given legitimacy by the Supreme Court, doesn't that mean that they can continue in office?
No, it doesn't mean they will continue in office. There was no pronouncement in that regard by the Supreme Court, and that matter had got to the point where the purported enactment of the Rivers State House of Assembly purporting to extend or elongate the tenure of democratically elected council members who were elected pursuant to the Rivers State local government law that limited their tenure to 3 years. I think that matter will gone past that, and that's why it is fundamental to consider these critical questions. It didn't mean, and we would have to stop these inferences and then imputing into decisions of court. It's contemptuous to even do that to the decision of the Supreme Court. So I am concerned, but then I just raise those rhetorical questions to the effect that the decision of the Supreme Court indeed is final, but like I said, it is not final because they are infallible, but it's because it's the final court. But I depart from that and quickly look at the issue of restraining the Central Bank of Nigeria and then the Accountant General of the Federation from releasing allocations fund for development and for governance in Rivers State. Yes, of course, it's a decision of the Supreme Court. It could be taken to also be final. That's what it is. But we have to also analyze this in questioning or interrogating the kind of federalism that we run in this country. And then it's unfortunate that you have federating units who ordinarily would have been the background, the basis for any federal system, agreeing to come together to have a center. But then you have an administration or a system in Nigeria very, very unique, where you have revenue accruing from states and the component states of a federation. Then you have it at a center, and before you return to them, that's what has created this
Mr.
kind of
Ekine, let me quickly come in here because of time. Just a minute, Mr. Ekine. I wanted to ask you, because the state government has released a statement already saying that, look, the issue of the legitimacy of the 27 lawmakers was not addressed or cannot be addressed by the Supreme Court because that case is already still at the Federal High Court. How would you advise the state government to proceed? Because the court has said, look, for now, they are still lawmakers.
Yes, and that's the true position. The matters before the Federal High Court, even here in Port Harcourt, specifically with respect to the defection of the 27 lawmakers, are yet to be decided. I recall that the last adjourned date in Federal High Court, those matters were adjourned, awaiting certain decisions of the Supreme Court that may give a direction to the Federal. Very much for having me. It's always my pleasure to be.
All right, we're staying on legal matters. Justice Yetunde Pinheiro of the High Court of Lagos State